first question. What's the one thing you've done at Convene, big or small, that's had the biggest impact and that you'll absolutely do again if you're CEO of another company in the future?
It's a great question. And I'd have to go way back. I think it was, we started the company in 2009, and we had started to get to a size and scale where we had to start to write down vision, mission, values, where it wasn't, we couldn't just kind of lead from the front and have it happen. I'd say it was probably 2011. And my co-founder and I, were committed to putting this stuff on paper. And I think I pulled an all-nighter and I wrote down our core values. And the acronym is GRIT, which I think stands for a lot in and of itself. And I know we'll talk a little bit about the experience kind of navigating Convene through the pandemic, which is really an existential crisis for us. But, GRIT is genuine, relentless, integrity, teamwork. And at the same time, we also wrote this kind of philosophy, which to me is really a life philosophy of 1% better each day. And that's this constant improvement, almost Kaizen type mindset that, I think my co-founder and I had as humans, and really wanted to bring that to an organization. And, I'd say of the many important things I feel like we've done, as a team and as an organization, committing to writing those values down on paper was probably one of the most, I'd say, transformational, really an inflection point. And, if I look at the business today and the success that we've had, I would say it's been staying religiously true to that core value system in everything that we do. From the way that we hire, to the way that we engage with our clients, to how we interact with our partners, to how we deal with challenging situations, which, for any startup founder and CEO or management team scaling a business, those things always happen. And so I'd say that of it all, that would be, I'd say, probably the most important thing that, we and I
I
do.
have so many questions on this. You've kept the same values for over a decade. Um, have you ever felt the need to change it, or kind of thinking like, hey, they don't really represent who we are now that I think you're what, 1,000 people maybe today?
Yeah, just under 1,000
So like,
people.
have you ever thought about changing them, or that just this has been
No, I would say our mission statement, our vision statement, our principles, I think like most companies, as you evolve and the market evolves and the opportunity set evolves, I think you're always tweaking that. I think as a founder, you have a vision. I call it like the front of the puzzle box. And I think you have a vision of what is possible and where you want to go, but it gets clearer as you get close to the destination. And then you also find these amazing new destinations that you want to go to. So I would say we've rewritten like our mission and vision statement. I don't know how many times over the last 15 years. We've definitely rewritten the about us Convene section of our website and boilerplate and LinkedIn. I don't know how many times. But thankfully, the core values is something that, we've never had to go back and really revisit. And I think it says a lot, like, genuine. Like, what does that mean? Well, that means to be authentic. That means to be authentic as a brand, authentic as a business. It means to be authentic as individuals, especially, in the hospitality business. I've always been a huge fan of Danny Meyer, and, I read his book, Setting the Table, early on. And it was really clear to me that the ethos and philosophy of Union Square's approach to hospitality was, let's hire amazing people that are compassionate, that care, and let's let them bring their genuine, authentic selves to deliver that experience. Like, let's not put them in a set uniform, and let's not give them the Ritz-Carlton script that they need to say. Like, and so I think this idea of genuine and authenticity is something that, I think has served us well. Relentless. Like, David, as a founder and CEO, so much of success is like, don't give up, don't quit, keep pushing, right? And, it's been amazing for me to see. And, I think we all got spoiled for a very long period of time, especially in the startup
Hmm.
ecosystem. Easy to raise money, easy to get a customer to pilot with you, easy to go get $1 of revenue. And I think any founder and CEO you talk to today knows that that's not the world we live in anymore. And I think all of us, we got tested in the pandemic in a certain way, but I think every founder today, especially those that are out, trying to fundraise, like there's a certain tenacity and resilience that is now required because it is not easy. And so I think this idea of being resilient has definitely served us well. Integrity, do the right
Hmm.
thing, period. And I think especially in the industry that I'm in, real estate, finance, it's easy to cut corners and to maybe tell yourself that you're doing the right thing, but you're really angling. And for us, we always wanted to be open, honest, transparent, fair, and, be able to put our head on the pillow at night, not just as individuals and leaders, but as a business. And then lastly, I grew up playing a lot of team sports, and business is the greatest team sport in the world, especially in a hospitality company. Every single person in this organization, whether you're in the corporate office, senior management, or you're working in one of our kitchens, the experience that we're delivering to our clients, you cannot do alone. And I'd say that element of teamwork and this idea of like we win and we lose together, I think has really served us well. And, is one of the reasons that, I think we were able to navigate ourselves through, an existential event in the pandemic and not just survive, but come out
Hmm.
thriving. Our business, we were killing it before the pandemic, in the process of closing a pre-IPO equity round, profitable, metrics were incredible. And, we're a bigger business today than we were heading into the pandemic. And, I think again, that's a testament to the team staying true to who we were, these core values, and being very, very relentless and
So
resilient.
the values are like you just went through. I mean, timeless, especially for your kind of business. So it makes sense. You've kept them in place over a decade. Now the next question is, how do you interview for those values? Do you have a dedicated team that does values interviews? I've heard that. Do you, from other people? Do you have? Is it just in the interview? In the wherever they have to put the feedback, and it's got each value. Like, how do you interview for these values?
Well, it's interesting, if every organization I think has what they would define as like their high bar when bringing talent into their organization. And if I was interviewing at Google, it's going to be probably very driven around like my technical capability, right? As an engineering culture, the technical capability is going to be really, really important, right? Because as an organization, that's like one of their core competencies and differentiators. For Convene, as like a hospitality company, we're in the human to human delivery of service experience business. We're in the people business. And so, as part of our interview process, we've built our questions. And when our interviewers are filling out their post interview feedback, there's certain questions that they're asking, and they actually do like a grit score of each individual candidate. And one of the questions that, and I ask this question in every interview that I do, especially of senior leaders, but really anytime I get to interview anyone, and it's an open ended question, but I think it says a lot about a person, which is what is the most challenging thing you've had to go through in your life? And how has that shaped who you are, what you believe, and what you want to accomplish in your life? And the responses I've gotten in that question says a lot. My mom died when I was a kid. I had cancer. Like you name it, you get it. And I think you learn a lot about who a person is as a human
Mm,
in the response to that question. And also how self actualized and reflective are they? And, to me, it also says like grit, resiliency,
Mhm.
adaptability. And that's one of my favorite interview
I
questions
like that. I like that a lot.
that I
I like
use.
that a lot. That's a really good question because you do learn a lot about you probably learn a lot about their their drive. What is it that's
100%, especially in a startup environment, right? A high growth company. Our former chief people officer and COO, who is amazing, Amy Poozer, when she came, she said, "Look, we have to hire for growth company DNA." And I'm like, "Well, what is growth company DNA?" Well, she said, "Well, think about it. In a growth company, you're always writing the playbook. You don't inherit a playbook. You're writing a playbook. You're constantly calling audibles, and there's a difference between people that run playbooks
hmm,
and build playbooks. And in a growth company, in a startup company, it's not black and white, it's always gray. And having people that are adaptable, resilient, curious, self reliant, don't need to be told what to do, see a problem, try and come up with a solution, that's kind of what you need in those environments to be successful, because those environments require that type of mindset and skill
hmm,
set. And so not only are we looking for grit and those core values, but also a person that is comfortable living in some sort of ambiguity and in what I would say is kind of a constant state of change. And look, as humans, we don't really love change, but in a startup high growth environment, that's all you're
hmm,
dealing with every
hmm,
day. And I think we've gotten really good through the recruiting process and the way we've built our employee facing brand and our employer brand, as well as in the interview process of really starting to not just attract and retain those types of people, but also understanding kind of how to structure the interview process to make sure, let's say our hit ratio is
hmm.
higher and we're making good hiring decisions.